Are you sitting down right now? Because if you're not, you need to grab something sturdy, throw your phone into airplane mode after this, and brace yourself. The hip-hop universe just experienced a localized magnitude 10 earthquake, and the tectonic plates go by the names of Remy Ma, Papoose, and Claressa Shields. For months, literally months, we've been watching this messy, dragged-out, mind-boggling love triangle unfold across every single podcast platform on the internet. We watched Papoose do his little media lap. We watched Claressa Shields sit on interview couches trying to convince us that up is down, left is right, and that she wasn't living in another woman's shadow. And through all of it, Remy Ma kept her mouth shut. She was quiet. She was chill. She was playing the long game. But honey, the long game just ended today. Remy finally broke her silence, and she didn't just speak. She dropped a nuclear warhead right in the middle of their lap. We are talking about a direct, no-holds-barred, scorched earth warning that has sent absolute shockwaves through the entire industry. Did Remy just spill the ultimate secret that Pap and Claressa were desperately trying to hide from the feds, the fans, and the press? What did she say that has Papoose panicking and deleting his whole digital footprint as we speak? Grab your popcorn, turn up your volume, and do not blink because we are breaking down every single jaw-dropping detail right now. To fully understand the utter chaos exploding across social media right now, we have to go back to where this unbelievable saga first started. For over a decade, Remy Ma and Papoose were touted as the golden standard of hip-hop relationships. They were the poster couple for unwavering loyalty, surviving prison sentences, industry politics, and the relentless pressure of the reality television cameras. Every single time you turned on your screen, Papoose was holding Remy down, presenting himself as the ultimate shelter from the storm. But as the old saying goes, the loudest applause often hides the most sinister backstage drama. Behind the polished black love facade, whispers were already circulating about massive financial discrepancies, secret off-market real estate deals, and a web of shadowy corporate entities registered under fake names across 3 different states. Sources deep within the tri-state entertainment circuit have long hinted that the image of the devoted, selfless husband was nothing more than a carefully crafted brand asset designed to secure multi-million-dollar distribution deals and lucrative network contracts. And then entered Claressa Shields. On paper, she was the undisputed boxing champion, a powerhouse athlete with Olympic gold medals and an untouchable ring record. But off the canvas, absolute mayhem was brewing. Late last year, anonymous industry whistleblowers began leaking bizarre internal communications from high-profile promotional firms. These documents suggested that Papoose was quietly managing several unlisted offshore talent accounts, routing hundreds of thousands of dollars through shell companies directly linked to international athletic sponsorships. Suddenly, Claressa wasn't just popping up at ringside events alongside Papoose. She was appearing in private VIP suites, riding in tinted luxury SUVs registered to paper corporations, and mysteriously rocking identical high-fashion pieces that had vanished from Remy Ma's personal archival collection just weeks prior. When fans first noticed the identical diamond-encrusted Cuban links and matching limited-edition designer handbags, the internet wrote it off as a bizarre coincidence. But the trail of breadcrumbs was far too deliberate. Leaked lobby footage from an ultra-exclusive Manhattan high-rise showed Papoose entering a penthouse suite registered under a pseudonym, followed closely by Claressa holding a set of platinum access keys. The sheer audacity of the operation was staggering. Papoose was effectively running a dual-life apparatus right under the nose of the general public, using complex non-disclosure agreements, private security details, and shell bank accounts to keep the two worlds completely isolated. Yet, despite the mounting evidence, Papoose and Claressa embarked on an aggressive, almost pathological media campaign to control the narrative. They invaded every prominent podcast room in the country. From sitting down with Breakfast Club hosts to doing 3-hour deep-dive interrogations on Vlad TV, they maintained a united front of utter denial. Claressa sat on these sets aggressively claiming that she was merely a corporate partner, an athlete receiving high-level management advice from an industry veteran. Meanwhile, Papoose played the calm, collected maestro, deflecting every sharp question about his legal marriage status with practiced political maneuvers. But while they were busy celebrating their genius spin doctoring on camera, they completely failed to realize that Remy Ma was quietly conducting her own forensic investigation behind closed doors. Remy didn't throw tantrums on Instagram Live. She didn't drop messy subtweets at 3 in the morning. Instead, she brought in heavy-duty legal counsel, private investigators, and forensic accountants to trace every single dollar, every lease agreement, and every encrypted messaging app channel used to facilitate this massive cover-up. What she uncovered wasn't just a basic marital betrayal. It was a sprawling network of financial deception, trademark infringement, and unauthorized usage of her personal brand identity. According to high-level insiders who were present during the initial discovery meetings, Papoose had allegedly siphoned off substantial percentages of Remy's performance royalties to bankroll secondary business ventures, exotic sports cars, and private jet charters registered under Claressa's team name. When the reality of what was happening began to settle in, the tension within their inner circle reached an absolute boiling point. Associates who had worked with the couple for over 15 years began quietly stepping away, terrified of being served with subpoenas or dragged into the impending fallout. Former staff members spoke under condition of strict anonymity about intense, screaming matches behind closed studio doors, where Papoose was overheard furiously scrambling to scrub electronic balance sheets before third-party auditors could lay eyes on them. They described an environment poisoned by paranoia, where phones had to be placed in signal-blocking pouches during routine business meetings, and staff members were made to sign absurdly aggressive gag orders on a weekly basis. As the corporate house of cards started to show massive structural cracks, the public began picking up on the weirdly hostile energy. People started questioning why Papoose was suddenly appearing at boxing press conferences 3,000 miles away, while Remy was left solo hosting major network television specials. They questioned why Papoose was constantly deflecting questions about his domestic living arrangements, claiming he was simply split between production studios. The story was falling apart at the seams, and the internet was getting hungry for answers. But Papoose and Claressa doubled down, believing they were entirely untouchable because they controlled the immediate public relations narrative. They carried on as if the public was completely blind to the blatant inconsistencies in their timelines, completely unaware that Remy Ma was holding a massive vault of evidence, ready to pull the pin on the whole operation. The illusion of control completely shattered when an undisclosed third party leaked a series of frantic, late-night voice notes between mid-level management executives. In these recordings, voices matching key members of Papoose's core team could be heard panicking over missing financial statements, unverified wire transfers to European bank accounts, and an emergency legal hold placed on several shared real estate holdings. The leaks sent the commentary community into an absolute frenzy. Content creators, investigative bloggers, and hip-hop sleuths began piecing together public land records, business registries, and flight manifests, mapping out an intricate web that directly connected Papoose's private shell companies to high-stakes gambling operations and unverified offshore athletic funds tied directly to Claressa's promotional team. The sheer scale of this scandal goes way beyond typical celebrity gossip. We are talking about a systemic, multi-layered deception that involves heavy-hitting corporate entities, fake press releases, manipulated media narratives, and millions of dollars in untraceable transactions. For months, Papoose and Claressa walked around with their chests out, assuming that Remy's dignified silence was a sign of weakness, a sign that she was trapped by non-disclosure agreements or paralyzed by the fear of public embarrassment. They genuinely believed that by flooding the market with endless podcast appearances, they could drown out the truth and force the public to accept their sanitized version of reality. But they gravely miscalculated who they were dealing with, because Remy Ma isn't just an icon in the booth. She is a ruthless strategist who knows precisely when to strike for maximum impact, and the explosive evidence she was accumulating behind the scenes was about to blow their entire world completely wide open as rumors escalated into an undeniable firestorm. The secondary phase of this sprawling scandal began to unravel with terrifying speed. Anonymous whistleblowers operating out of executive music offices began dropping digital breadcrumbs on encrypted forums, exposing what can only be described as a masterclass in corporate negligence and personal betrayal. The leaks pointed toward a secret secondary database containing thousands of flagged transactions, encrypted text chains, and non-disclosure agreements that Papoose had allegedly forced low-level studio engineers and personal assistants to sign under threat of blacklisting. These documents laid out a jaw-dropping narrative. While Remy Ma was working grueling 18-hour days on television sets and festival stages, an elaborate shadow operation was running in the background, utilizing her very own hard-earned assets to bankroll an extravagant lifestyle that extended far beyond standard business management. The details emerging from these leaked financial audit sheets read like a high-stakes crime thriller. We are talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars funneled through ghost corporations, disguised on balance sheets as promotional expenses, equipment rentals, and security logistics for non-existent international tours. In reality, these funds were reportedly being redirected to cover private aviation charters, high-end Miami real estate rentals, and custom-designed diamond jewelry commissioned for Claressa shields. The sheer brazenness was unbelievable. Investigative sleuths who cross-referenced public registration records discovered that one of the primary holding companies used to purchase $1 million luxury fleet was registered to an address directly adjacent to Claressa's primary training facility, using a modified variation of Remy's own publishing entity name. When the digital paper trail began going viral across independent commentary networks, the public reaction was instant, vicious, and completely overwhelming. Comment sections were flooded with millions of outrage-fueled messages demanding accountability. The myth of the golden hip-hop marriage wasn't just cracking. It was detonating in real time. Longtime supporters who had championed Papoose for years felt utterly foolish, realizing that the image of the fiercely loyal, protective husband was potentially nothing more than a profitable illusion crafted for network television cameras. Social media users began weaponizing old interview clips, replaying moments where Papoose passionately preached about marital devotion, and contrasting them against newly surfaced receipts of private jet manifests showing synchronized travel schedules between him and Claressa across multiple continents. Meanwhile, Claressa's position in the court of public opinion spiraled out of control. While she attempted to project an image of unbothered athletic supremacy, the commentary community wasn't buying it for a single second. Critics pointed out the bizarre, almost unsettling patterns of behavior that had been occurring for months. From wearing identical custom hairpieces to sporting signature designer wardrobe combinations that were mirror images of Remy's iconic street-style looks, fans argued that this was no longer a matter of professional management. It was a full-blown obsession. The public discourse shifted from curiosity to intense backlash, with millions accusing Claressa of actively conspiring to dismantle a married woman's life while simultaneously attempting to step into her shoes, adopt her aesthetic, and consume her entire cultural identity. Yet, despite the walls closing in, Papoose and Claressa attempted to execute one of the most tone-deaf damage control operations in modern pop culture history. Rather than lying low or issuing a measured press statement, they doubled down on their aggressive media blitz. They went on high-profile radio shows, appeared on sports panels, and sat down with cozy interviewers who lobbed softball questions designed to sanitize the situation. In these appearances, Papoose adopted a smug, condescending posture, dismissing the mounting evidence as mere internet drama concocted by broke haters who couldn't comprehend high-level business partnerships. Claressa sat beside him, rolling her eyes and firing off defiant insults at callers who dared to ask direct questions about the lease agreements, the matching jewelry, or the obvious emotional wreckage left in their wake. This arrogance proved to be their ultimate downfall. They genuinely believed that by controlling the immediate media narrative and maintaining a united front of defiant denial, they could gaslight the entire world into believing their fabricated story. They assumed that the public possessed a short memory, and that the sheer volume of fake spin would eventually force critics to move on to the next trending topic. But what they failed to realize was that their public displays of defiance were actively fueling the fire, infuriating not just the fans, but the network executives, corporate sponsors, and brand partners whose reputations were now being dragged into the mud alongside them. Behind the scenes, major corporate entities were already quietly taking emergency action. Legal departments at prominent television networks and athletic sponsorship brands began issuing formal litigation holds, freezing pending contracts, and launching internal risk assessments. High-level executives were terrified that the ongoing financial disclosures, specifically the allegations involving unrecorded wire transfers and unauthorized usage of corporate credit lines, could trigger massive federal tax audits and corporate fraud investigations. Anonymous sources within these network suites revealed that several lucrative endorsement deals involving both Papoose and Claressa were abruptly suspended, with board members refusing to greenlight any further funding until a full, independent forensic audit was completed. The internal panic within Papoose's camp reached a fever pitch. Insiders described chaotic late-night strategy sessions where advisors frantically argued over how to stop the hemorrhaging. Some team members begged Papoose to issue a formal apology and step back from the spotlight, warning him that his continued public arrogance was provoking Remy into unleashing her ultimate legal arsenal. Others suggested cutting all professional ties with Claressa immediately in a desperate bid to salvage what was left of his public credibility. But Papoose, trapped in his own web of pride and denial, refused to pivot. He convinced himself that he could outsmart the auditors, silence the whistleblowers, and outmaneuver the legal machinery that was slowly grinding toward him. What Papoose and Claressa completely overlooked in their blind hubris was the silent, calculated brilliance of Remy Ma. While they were busy performing for podcast microphones and throwing shade on morning shows, Remy was operating like a seasoned corporate chess grandmaster. She didn't waste her energy engaging in petty back-and-forth social media spats. She didn't give frantic interviews or shed tears for public sympathy. Instead, she sat back, allowed her adversaries to repeatedly lie under oath on public platforms, and meticulously gathered every piece of self-incriminating evidence they foolishly dropped along the way. Every podcast interview where they denied the financial connections, every radio appearance where they mocked the public, and every defensive tweet was carefully logged, cataloged, and added to a massive legal dossier. Remy understood that the most effective trap is the one your enemies dig for themselves. By remaining silent, she gave Papoose and Claressa the false confidence they needed to hang themselves with their own words. They mistook her composure for surrender, genuinely believing she was too paralyzed by grief or afraid of public exposure to take decisive action. But as the fake reports, leaked documents, and corporate subpoenas continued to accumulate, the atmosphere reached a terrifying critical mass. The stage was set for an unprecedented explosion, and the entire industry was holding its breath, waiting for the moment when Remy Ma would finally break her silence, strip away the lies, and deliver the ultimate reckoning that would change all of their lives forever. And that exact reckoning is now slamming down upon them like a freight train with broken brakes, as the full magnitude of the impending fallout threatens to utterly obliterate everything Papoose and Claressa have spent years attempting to build. The institutional walls are officially crumbling, and the consequences are no longer just restricted to messy internet blogs or viral TikTok commentaries. We are talking about severe, career-ending structural damage that extends straight into the halls of high-level law enforcement agencies, corporate regulatory boards, and federal financial oversight committees. Unconfirmed reports emerging from state tax authority offices suggest that formal preliminary probes have already been initiated to investigate multi-state financial irregularities, unrecorded foreign wire transfers, and potential tax evasion connected to the maze of shadow corporations operated by Papoose and his immediate associates. When news of these pending governmental probes began leaking to major media outlets, the corporate panic converted into an outright stampede. Major television networks, which had previously remained neutral while observing the ratings goldmine of the drama, immediately pulled the emergency brake. Inside sources report that executive board members held frantic, late-night emergency sessions to scrub upcoming programming lineups, quietly shelving multi-episode docuseries and high-budget lifestyle shows that featured Papoose as an executive producer or main talent. Distribution companies that had signed lucrative distribution deals under the impression that they were partnering with a squeaky clean, bulletproof brand began issuing formal notices of breach, citing morals clauses and demanding the immediate return of multi-million-dollar cash advances that had already been allocated to private bank accounts. The financial crisis rapidly spilled over into Claressa's athletic domain with brutal precision. High-profile athletic sponsors, sports apparel brands, and international promotional entities, who strictly maintain zero-tolerance policies regarding corporate fraud, public scandal, and reputational damage, began cutting ties one after another. Multi-year endorsement contracts worth millions of dollars were unilaterally terminated overnight. Scheduled championship press tours were abruptly canceled, with venue managers refusing to host media events that could potentially be targeted by process servers, federal auditors, or angry crowds of protesting fans. Claressa, who had built her entire identity on being an untouchable, unbothered world champion, suddenly found herself facing an unprecedented financial freeze, isolated by the very corporate machinery that had funded her ascension. As the financial dominoes collapsed, the interpersonal toxicity between Papoose and Claressa finally reached its toxic boiling point. The united arrogant front they had proudly displayed on podcast sets completely disintegrated under the crushing weight of real-world consequences. Eyewitnesses at high-end residential complexes in Miami and New York reported hearing explosive, screaming confrontations echoing through luxury hallways late at night, as the two former allies frantically pointed fingers at each other over who was ultimately responsible for bringing this catastrophic level of scrutiny upon their heads. Papoose allegedly accused Claressa's aggressive social media behavior and defensive interviews of provoking public outrage, while Claressa furiously blamed Papoose's sloppy financial management, amateurish paper trails, and inability to handle his personal life for ruining her pristine athletic brand. In a desperate, last-ditch effort to minimize the damage, members of Papoose's inner circle reportedly reached out to major network executives, offering high-level resignations and public apologies in exchange for sweeping non-disclosure agreements that would shield their remaining assets from public exposure. Leaked internal emails reveal frantic requests for quiet settlements, media blackouts, and emergency public relations campaigns designed to shift the entire narrative onto low-level accounting firms and rogue financial managers. But these frantic survival tactics came far too late. The legal and financial machinery set in motion by months of rampant deception had acquired too much momentum, and no amount of corporate spin or manufactured scapegoating could halt the impending avalanche. The public backlash reached levels never before seen in modern hip-hop history. Independent commentary channels, investigative journalism podcasts, and social media sleuths dissected every single element of the unfolding collapse with mathematical precision. Fans who had once idolized the duo turned on them with brutal savagery, filling every digital space with harsh critiques, satirical parodies, and demands for total transparency. The narrative had permanently shifted from a messy celebrity love triangle into a cautionary tale of hubris, greed, and the inevitable destruction that follows when individuals attempt to build an empire on a foundation of lies, stolen identity, and corporate manipulation. Yet, despite the staggering scale of this corporate and personal fallout, the true masterstroke of this entire saga remains the cold, calculated execution delivered by Remy Ma. Throughout this entire multi-month ordeal, while her adversaries were burning down their own careers in a desperate bid for public validation, Remy maintained absolute control over her emotional real estate and legal strategy. She proved that true power does not lie in loud podcast outbursts, messy social media rants, or defensive interview tours. True power lies in patience, precision, and the relentless accumulation of undeniable facts that leave your opponents with zero room to maneuver when the final strike is delivered. When Remy Ma finally chose to break her silence, she didn't just issue a standard celebrity statement. She delivered a masterclass in psychological and legal warfare that left Papoose, Claressa, and their entire network of enablers completely paralyzed. Her sharp, uncompromising warnings served as a terrifying reminder to the entire entertainment industry that she is not a figure to be trifled with, cheated, or taken for granted. By systematically exposing the financial deception, the personal betrayals, and the pathetic attempts to copy her life, Remy re-established herself as the undisputed alpha in a game where everyone else was merely playing checkers, while she was playing high-stakes corporate chess. The long-term impact of this scandal will undoubtedly reverberate throughout the entertainment and sports industries for years to come. It serves as a stark, chilling lesson to every public figure who believes they can hide behind fake media narratives, shell corporations, and arrogant denial while trampling over the people who helped build their foundation. The illusion of the untouchable celebrity couple has been completely shattered, replaced by the harsh reality of legal accountability, financial ruin, and public embarrassment. Papoose and Claressa are now left standing in the smoking ruins of their once promising careers, forced to confront the disastrous consequences of their own actions, while the entire world watches their downfall in real time. As the legal proceedings gear up for what promises to be one of the most explosive, highly publicized court battles in modern pop culture history, one fundamental truth remains crystal clear above all the noise and drama. Remy Ma stood her ground, protected her legacy, and proved once and for all that when the dust settles, the truth will always prevail over the most elaborate web of lies. Papoose and Claressa thought they could play with fire.